my God. I want off this show right now.
All right, that's enough of that. Suck it, Ravens. Suck it, Colts.
Here in Ohio, we don't approve of that kind of behavior.
One more time. Oh, let's take a seat. Proving to Josh, I do have legs. I can stand up.
I got legs.
Oh, baby. What
excited?
An afternoon, Eddie. What an afternoon.
I have 3 basketball shows this week. I'm turning up my basketball involvement a little bit. So I spent all day working on algorithms and protections and refining a system and rankings and all this stuff. So I have not been keeping up with the foosball. Talk to me about what's so exciting.
Well, the Colts were in command of their own destiny, of the playoff race, needed to beat the lowly 2-win Jaguars to assure themselves a spot in the playoffs. They lost by like almost 20. And old fat fuck at quarterback pulled it out one last drive.
No. Don't be incomplete. Fat fuck rapist.
Yeah.
Make sure you get the whole.
I'm a fan of the product on the field, to be certain. Not a fan of the wannabe MotoGP off the field. You know, we could talk about a lot of detrimental things he's done off the field, but Pittsburgh, barring a tie in Sunday Night Football, into the playoffs. And I forget who was talking to me in the NFL chat an hour ago, but said, Pittsburgh granting a bye to whoever gets matched up with them next round. And I don't necessarily disagree, but anything can happen. Anyways,
somebody put a Coming to America gif, if you will, in chat. It says it was a most ripping victory. I think he says it was a most gripping victory. Not that I will accept any kind of slander. Should you misquote Shakespeare? Should you inappropriately contextualize the words of the bard? That I would let go. But Coming to America, a modern cinematic triumph.
Yeah,
I can't let the guy. I believe it was a most gripping victory. I think it's gripping in that context. So whoever made that gif, shame on you for screwing the pooch like that.
Well, after all of that, Eddie, all that fanfare.
Think there's any chance that there's going to be a tie game tonight? They're talking about it now. You think they might just kneel it down? They might just pull out soda pop on the field and be like, looking good over there, Justin.
Yeah, it certainly won't be on purpose. And if they do tie, I mean, crazier things have happened, like the Colts losing by 20 to the Jaguars. But we are here.
What would happen? What would happen? I just want your 30 seconds on this as people file in, if you will. What would happen if they got on the field and literally kneeled for 90 minutes? What if the two coaches just went, I want to push the introduce?
I think the NFL fires, maybe eliminates both franchises from the league before they let that happen on a Sunday night. This is a playoff game.
The question is you're telling two. All right, I would say honestly, my number one job as a coach, literally my number one job, is to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, am I right that both teams make it on a tie or a win, but don't make it if they lose? Am I right? That this is winner in, loser out.
Yes. And tie them both in.
I don't know how you if I'm the coach of one team and you're the coach of the other, the strategic best play, I think you're on this side of me, would be like, hey, want to both make the play? Why? It is the correct game theory, decision theory to just be
no question.
Unless they've specifically been told, we will fire your asses, or your team will be fined $5 million or something insane. If they said we're going to fine your team $1 million to go from about a 50% chance to 100% chance of making the playoffs, I'd be like, you can do whatever the fuck you want. It's a playoff berth. It's also, by the way, several $1 million you are in a playoff game and bonuses come in and TV
coaches, players,
That's an amazing. I'm sure this has happened previously. And I'm not sure. I think it's incredibly likely they're just going to play it. But it doesn't make sense to play it. It does not make sense for either team to play it. There is no reason to A, risk injury.
Right. Well, I agree.
And B, possibly not make the playoffs. I have 2 courses of action. Could hurt a guy, might not make the playoffs, and definitely won't hurt my team, get another week of rest, and will automatically make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't I was a professional Magic the Gathering player for several years. Please, no autographs. And drawing into the top 8 was a fucking thing. You would just get there and be like, we can play, and one of us doesn't make it. It was expected behavior. Again, we're dorks. You were expected to have a basic grasp of game theory, whereas NFL coaches,
Yeah.
Anyway, like, but
I actually saw a Magic player already on Twitter suggesting that you do the old MTG tie and we both move on.
It's any Magic player understood. Like, I have literally drawn intentionally 30 times for serious money in Grand Prix and Pro Tours and things like that.
Mhm.
So HB cards with basketball in the chat. Okay, I'll shut up. I find that fascinating. Like, as a coach, you would need to threaten me with the world. I'm like, look, my job is to win a Super Bowl, and I can't do that unless I make the playoffs. And you're telling me I can do two things: 50% or 100% chance of making the playoffs. Unless you tell me that I have violated, like, you would have to lay down the fucking law for me not to be like, Niels? Niels? Okay, Niels. Like, I'm just saying, I find that absolutely fascinating as a professional math guy. But there you go. I will shut up now. But
I would, the last thing I'll say on this, I would direct you to the link of Mike Tomlin coming on one of the players' Instagram live feeds and starting to dance. Saw that right before we went live. HB Cards posted in the chat there. So, yeah, and also Eddie, I don't believe I've been able to see you since then, but the subs here at FTN have not seen you since your family jaunt to Mexico.
It's true.
Many things talked about on that stream. Anthony's been asking how'd the rest of your night go, etc. Easy B says Eddie's stale dick pills. Maybe that could be Hugo 35's new screen name. I don't know, but how you been?
I'd be fine with that. Otherwise, I purchase only fresh dick pills. That's why you go to Mexico. It's just jugs of, I don't know if I have any Mexican medication, but I bring back amoxicillin and like one of the best reasons to vacation in Mexico. Oh no, I do have some right here. Right here. Boom. This is this is a box of year old Mexican amoxicillin.
There you go.
They're not dick pills. I'd better show this bottle up close because then people are gonna be like, aha, Viagra. But no, that's over the counter, like $9 a bottle. You come back with all kinds of stuff, and there's like 30-40% chance it's real medication.
Well, we do have a pretty lengthy slate here for a Sunday. 8 games, 2 of them tipping off the hour early from our normal lock. Normal lock 7 p.m. Eastern. 2 games going off here at 6, and no show preceding us. So I guess we can go game by game, but we do have the ranks up, Eddie. And we did not get to discuss those ranks before I posted them, so we'll make some adjustments together on the fly here.
Sure, give me your 10s. Drop your 10s on me. Like,
see, here's the thing. When I went back and posted them after they're all done, I only have 2, and it feels wrong because there's a lot of good values today. But and one of them is completely situational. Like, I have Tyus Jones as a 10 because I have Ja Morant and Kyle Anderson out right now. That's how I think it's
one or both of them plays, and Kyle Anderson will play some slow point guard. So
yeah, but I mean, if that news comes out after the previous 7 games lock, there are no good pivots. I mean, you're either sticking with Tyus, or you're going to Avery Bradley or somebody like that, and so. Just as we go, I definitely want to talk about I have a lot of guys that look very strong, as I mentioned. So any of the guys that we talk through and you see fit to move up to a 10, let's definitely have those conversations. Nikola Jokic being the other 10, also pulled a 10 on our sponsor, Superdraft. And we are presented to you, as always, by Superdraft Daily Fantasy. You go over there, sign up, get registered, use the promo code FTN. You get $100 in bonus funds on any deposit of $100 or more, and you get the best Superdraft content in the business here at FTN Daily. All that Superdraft content is free, with the exception of the Superdraft rankings, but those are up for our subs to peruse. I believe I see you perusing something now. It may be the ranks. So unless you have anything to add before we jump into the game by game, Washington and Orlando is first on the menu. So take it away.
No. By all means, you get us started here. I'm working on. I will tell you my highest rated player on either Washington or Orlando is Cole Anthony. Sorry, everyone. I'm a little. Again, I have 3 or 4 shows this week, so I'm getting deeper into my process here. I spent a few hours today on rankings and value rankings and working out my salary algorithm and a couple other things here. But my favorite player in this game would be Cole Anthony, backed up at second by Mo Bamba, number 5.
Mm-hmm. I'm right there with you. Both of those guys 9s in the DK ranks. Wendell Carter Jr. is out for the Magic in this game. We will see Chuma Okeke get the start at the 4 over Freddie Gillespie, who got it last game. So I'm going right back to Mo Bamba at 5.8 on DK. Underperformed. I believe that was yesterday, right? This is the second half of the back-to-back. Last night, only 29 minutes for Mo with Wendell Carter out. Magic only put up 92 points against the Pistons. 25 and a quarter DK for Mo Bamba.
Losing to the Pistons, not good, but that's
But I think Cole Anthony, to your point, 7.6, way too cheap. As I said, gets the 9 here. 43 DK on only 5 of 18 from the floor last night.
I mean, we're dealing with the back-to-back. He played 36 minutes last night, I want to say. But he's had issues with both ankles. So maybe they go a little, like, I have no reason to believe that specifically, and he's young and he looked outstanding last night to me. So plus when you get no Wendell Carter, Suggs out still, obviously. I think there's like all the ceiling in the world. So I think 9 is the appropriate ranking there on Cole Anthony, because there's enough doubt that, and I expect enough ownership that I'm not super excited. But Cole Anthony would be a 10 for me if we were not on a back-to-back and he didn't have Steph Curry Doritos ankles circa 2012 hashtag. Yeah. I used to call him Doritos ankles. I think he was the second Doritos ankles. I forget who was the first one. I want to say Darren Williams. There was someone else early in my career. I was like, this guy has Doritos for ankles. And then Steph Curry was the second one. And like, I was really worried his career would not pan out. Spoiler alert, it's worked out okay.
Yeah. And that Golden State game. I can't wait to have. I'm going to have to dual screen it tonight. We're watching for the tie on one screen and watching Clay
as soon as somebody scores, as soon as like they're playing even. Like someone puts points on the board in that game, I think your odds of a tie go to under 2%. Yeah, maybe under 1%. I'd have to do some math, but really, really low. So you kind of don't have to watch that one. Oh, they're playing, they're scoring. Okay, well, it's gonna be pretty hard to engineer a tie.
There'll be Gold Club going on. I don't know. By the way, 1-2 yesterday. I think clinching the title there.
I saw that
with only these slates today remaining. Rest of this Orlando team, Franz Wagner's usage has gone way down since Cole Anthony has come back. Price is down too, though, down to 6-1. On DK, not out of play, but not really a priority target for me. Secondary,
I think your ceiling is really far. I mean, like, you can pick up those extra peripherals, and we're not super worried about this matchup. So, like, it's certainly in play, but, you know, a good step. Like, for me, it's actually Cole Anthony is my favorite. Decent step down, but still pretty big fan of getting to Mo Bamba. And then I think Okiki is a mid-range value play, and maybe Franz Wagner gets there, and you can always Terrence Ross and GPPs.
I was going to say, what do you think about T. Ross?
Minutes. There's this, right, exactly. Still with no Suggs there anytime he's out there. I'm always going to like him when the ownership has fallen back to a nominal level. He's at the low 5s instead of the high 4s, I think. So the ownership goes from 8% to 3%. I'm fine getting to Terrence Ross. I would probably Terrence Ross before I would Franz Wagner. A little bit. You're on the back-to-back. Maybe they take it light on Gary Harris because of that. Gary Harris probably the cash play to Terrence Ross, and so
Norman Powell is out. Sorry to interrupt, but that is big news.
Nopo is out. All right. Well, that's very interesting. I already like that game a lot. So yeah, we're definitely in. All right. So, and again, I don't know if you know about this, but if he's in the protocols, then that would be COVID, and it's what we call communicable illness. You can give it to someone else. Long story short, being no bullshit. And we've made money. Like, I've only done, 18 shows this year or whatever, but we've made money on 3 of them where and this is obvious, but was stressing, wait. And we would get news that this coach has COVID or this player has COVID. And I'd be like, you got extra time. So, defraying expenditure and leaving money in the pocket to see what happens. And now we have that late game, which already has a ton of nice plays in it. Nurkic is one of my highest rated players on the board. Again, it's less obvious play than getting to Jokic, but as soon as you find guys in the middle of a day, guys rarely go out in ones. I'll put it that way. Or it's like 50-50. So the odds of someone else on Portland going out for COVID today are like, if you put a gun to my head and said, guess the odds on someone else on Portland going out in COVID in the 3.5 hours till that game, 8:30 Eastern, 9 Eastern, something like that. I would say the odds of that are like 30%, like a real actionable number. So if you get, Simons to protocols or something like that, that's a huge opportunity opens up there.
Yeah. Let's flip to the Washington side of this game. Anthony's asking, are we okay with skipping these first two games? I'm not against it.
I don't think
I
that's
do.
necessary, but let's do them quickly. Again,
Yeah.
we're finally getting I think we're finally getting the great Washington power forward smush
Yeah.
that we've been expecting
Well,
for a while. Where
yeah,
Bertans
not completely, because there's no Thomas Bryant, no Trez Harrell yet. So those guys can also slide to the 5 some.
yeah, some, but Gafford's going to play, I'll say 29 minutes at the 5,
Mhm.
and then sure, these guys are going to split, but literally, you occasionally see Avdia at the 4, but I won't even count him. Now you have Kuzma, Bertans, Hachimura, all playing,
Mhm.
so that kind of takes all of them out of play.
Yeah.
We're getting Point Beal, which is great, but with Dinwiddie back, you're getting much less Point Beal and kind of
Yeah.
not Point Beal a lot of these games, and it's so for me, Beal at only 9,600 in what is a fantastic matchup still has upside. This game staying close and Bradley Beal putting up 60 would not shock me. Some GPP exposure
It would
to
shock
Beal.
me.
It would? Why?
He's been bad with Dinwiddie in this year.
Yeah.
That
No,
recent stretch
would
was
not
obviously
surprise is a bad way of saying it. But if he's going to be, I'll go 4% owned. I don't think that's
sure.
inappropriate. Like I might have one if I was in your 20 lineups. The matchup is extremely good.
Yeah. I think there's just too many other places I'd rather spend my salary today. Like I don't have really any interest in this Washington team as a whole. If I was going to Beal, Eddie, or even Kuzma, I think I would do it on Superdraft rather than the salary cap sites. You
Sure.
get an extra 10% on Beal, 1.45x for Kuz over there.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely fair. Kuz, that for me at 1.45 on Kuz.
Yeah.
I still think I'd pass on it.
Sure.
Like that's just not enough for me. It needs 45 raw kind of to get there.
Mm-hmm. That other game that goes off here right at lock, Pelicans going north of the border to visit the Raptors. J-Val revenge spot here, going up against his former team, if you want to call it that.
Of those, sure.
I will say probably not a ton of opportunities against the Raptors where he's gonna project for 30 plus minutes.
Yep.
And an okay price. Same with Brandon Ingram there at 8.5. The big news here, Josh Hart being out. Yep. Joining Tomas Satoransky will still be out for this team. And just before we went live, they waived Jose Alvarado. They waived, who was the other one? Jared Harper. They converted Gary Clark to a two-way. So really I'm fine if you want to get Ingram, J-Val, Devontae Graham, I guess. Herb Jones, the price continuing to rise, but he keeps producing in the massive minutes that he's getting. But I think my favorite place to attack here, Eddie, is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Likely to come off the bench. I imagine Garrett Temple gets in the starting lineup for Josh Hart, but at 3.7 NAW, I mean.
Yeah, I have him for 25 minutes and 23.5 fantasy points. So I have NAW as marginally my best guy, certainly my best of the non-expensive guys. I would sprinkle in certainly some Ingram and some Valanciunas. That's probably about it for me. I don't think I get to. I mean, Herbie's what, 5 even?
Yes.
You know, he's obviously been playing a lot over his head. I expect.
Do you think though, like it's been a while that he's been doing this?
Yeah. I mean, he's. I think it's sort of more of a usage issue for me. Again, it's very Scotty Barnes as you see like seasons progress and teams adjust a little bit. These guys tend to fall back in the order as far as what they're actually going to be doing. But
yeah, you're right. Shot attempts definitely down since Ingram came back. The stocks are just, I mean, he's averaging like 5 stocks over the last 4 games.
Right. Like we've seen this. And don't get me wrong, if he puts up what he's averaged over the last 4 games, you're not unhappy at I think he's 5K on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm less inclined. Won't be a ton owned, hasn't been. So
yeah. I mean, are there any guys from this game, like as we look at the Toronto side as well? Yuta Watanabe still out. And that's
about it, though. They're
pretty much it.
Yeah.
And like they ran like one of the wildest bench rotations. Let me pull up this game flow. They beat Utah, who was the Utah team. But they started OG Fred, Gary Trent, Scotty Barnes, Pascal.
Yep.
And then it was Birch, Champagny, Boucher, and Precious off the bench. It's like an entire team of 4s and 5s.
Yep.
So
yeah, they had the 4 power forwards in play. That was fun.
Like it's really hard for me to get to Fred at 10-2 on DK. Pascal Siakam being center only still at 8.8. There's just opportunity cost there that I don't think I want to attack.
Yeah, Siakam for me ranks as the best expenditure ignorant of position, and again, that's something I'm one of the things I've been trying to codify today, which is difficult because it obviously changes during the day. Is sort of giving you a relative value based on position. So there's times where like being a center is a strong negative. So there is a negative value to being in center, whereas there's a positive value to being shooting guard, small forward. So I've been trying to mathematize that, which obviously a bit of a lift. But yeah, Siakam, for me, I still have it 36 minutes and 44 fantasy points. That's really good for 8,800. Like that's still a very amenable position to get to. But yeah, no one on this team jumps out at me. Barnes, that price I think will still continue to come down and we'll go back there. But basically, as I was just alluding to, has fallen into sort of the number 5 role on offense here. I like Van Vliet a lot. I like the matchup. 10-2 is obviously a nut, and I don't think his usage stays as high as it has been. Maybe they're gonna Steph Curry, Fred Van Vliet from now on. But yeah, they have 4 other competent offensive players there, so it's a little strange for me that he maintains this level. He's fine. You can play him, but as far as
Gary Trent Jr. scratched.
Okay, well now we're having fun.
Yeah, Garrison Matthews expected to play. Bones Highland available.
Yeah, so
and Luka game time decision. Big news that we will certainly cover here in a minute when we get to the Dallas game.
All right,
Graham, Temple, Ingram, Jones, Valanciunas as expected for the Pels.
All right, let me reproject without Gary Trent.
Sure.
It's really interesting because it's hard to guess who's gonna Are they going to give Champagne the start? Do you think, or Svi?
I would think it would be Svi, because you have so much length already out there with Scotty and OG and Pascal. It's not crazy to run the rookie out there, but I think it's Svi. It's also interesting that it doesn't seem like Malachi Flynn is being considered for any of these spots to plug holes for this rotation. Even when they were more shorthanded than this. So I think it's Svi. Would not be crazy. Champagny last game, we mentioned him being in the rotation. He wasn't really. He played 4 minutes.
Yeah, that would be a little odd. It's an empty arena game, by the way. They're doing it Mick Foley and The Rock style. That match they had opposite, I think it was Super Bowl day.
Let's see. And Gellner saying Tempo is projecting for about 25% ownership. Seems hefty. I agree, but he's cheap enough.
He got the start, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm fine with GT. He's cash sort of for me. He has enough steal block upside where you can get there. My last projection is 30 minutes on the nose, 20.5 fantasy points. For 3,400, that's perfectly equitable. I have him for 24% ownership, by the way. So whoever's saying 25 is thinking about the same thing I am. He's fine. I would rather save that money, I think, and see if something opens up in those later games, which will juicier over unders anyway. But
sure,
I would not he rates fine. I would not have any issue. So do you want to bounce and then come back when we get a starting lineup, which will give me a more we're 33 minutes out. Let's cover games.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just keep going in chronological order here. Minnesota at Houston. Minnesota, we're waiting on Pat Bev news, questionable with a groin. Yep. Outside of that, Leo Bolmaro's out. Not going to affect our DFS process here today. I like Cat from this team, sub 10K at 9.9, center only. Not my favorite center play, but I would actually prefer him to Pascal Siakam at 8.8. I think it's fine if you want to take shots on Ant Edwards or D'Lo.
Yeah. I would prefer Christian Wood across the ball to either of them.
I agree.
So just since we're on this game already, trying to keep it topical. But
outside of those top 3, I think it's Jared Vanderbilt who would make my pool, and I'm not really messing with the Minnesota values today because to me they're not really values with everybody back.
Yeah, I think all the top spends on Minnesota have some amount of appeal. You're basically on 8K, or I think D'Angelo's 78 and Ant is 8 on the nose. Both Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell, actually, interestingly enough, for me, have the same exact projection of 41.25 fantasy points, but they both have 50 point ceilings that are going to be reached 20-25% of the time. And at that prices, Edwards is both guard and forward eligible. I have them as very cromulent capable, even plays, but I think because of positionality, I think Edwards is owned a little bit more. So you're going to get obviously the matchup with Houston is wonderful. You're going to get 15% Edwards, 10% D'Angelo. I don't find either of those numbers unreasonable, but worth stating that they should be there. Karl Anthony Towns obviously can put his thing down here and do a very significant amount of damage in this matchup. Again, the Rockets front court is really small, among other things. But yeah, Vanderbilt, as you mentioned, makes a nice value for me. One of the best rebounders in the league. He's really gets up for it. Better on other sites, I think. But yeah, Minnesota for me, again, is sort of a splash. There's no one I see who's radically over the field or under the field where I'd want to, go crazy on Jaden McDaniels or something like that. So I think you've got, 5% ownership on Vanderbilt, 7 or 8 on Towns, 10 on Russell. I think Anthony Edwards is actually the highest owned guy on this team, but none of these values or projections seem that crazy for me. So I don't think I have a great against the projection, against the field take here. But it's a really nice matchup. Pace is good. And by the way, just 20 seconds on pace, by the way. Every time someone says that a really, really slow team, like a 29th in the league pace team, is going to play a 22nd in the league pace team, and then it's a pace-up matchup, I want to kill myself. Like, I want to die. It requires a staggering misunderstanding of math, basketball, anything. Okay, so, when there was this whole year where, Joel Embiid would be in or out every other game. And when Joel Embiid was in, you didn't play almost anyone else on the team because all of their usage went down 5%. And when he was out, you'd play them all because their price was created on basically if he played 50% of the games, the average of games with him in is out. So it was when he was, those weren't English words there, but that's fine. When he was in, everyone else was too expensive. When he was out, they were too cheap. Pace sort of works the same way. Whether or not your team is first or 30th in pace, the salaries are based on an expectation of an average team because you've played whatever at this point, 32 games, and you've played teams from all sorts of paces. So if your team is ball slow, you're 29th, and you play a team that is 22nd, that is still bad for you. Even though they're faster than you, your prices came from playing teams that were 1st, 3rd, 5th, 9th, 11th, 17th, 22nd, 24th, 29th, 30th across the matrix. So being like you're 29th, you're pacing up against a 22nd phase team is A, fucking obvious. You're that slow. You pace up against everyone. And B, it's not a good thing. And it drives me nuts that there's 100 people who write basketball content and 40 of them apparently don't grasp this fucking concept because they're just like, yeah, it's a pace-up matchup for molasses against fudge. And it's like, sure, but that's not how. All right, it's okay. Rant done, but I'm just saying, if you're looking for a way to know that someone, and I hope it's no one on this site wrote this, so crossing myself that I'm not throwing someone under a train, see someone writing that this is a pace-up matchup for the 30th team against the 20th team, that sounds like it's a good thing. It's technically correct. It's one of those things you can say that's like my friend said to me, we were in a post and he's a very moderate guy like me. And he actually posted, hey, most people who get the Omicron variant of COVID have no symptoms or symptoms no worse than the cold. And I'm like, that's a dumb thing to say. And he's like, why? It's correct. I'm like, sure, it's correct. But it portends something. It comes out of you're trying to say something. It's just like you're trying to say COVID's not a big deal, which it is, not because of the average symptoms. Like you're missing the whole point. So being like, this is a pace-up matchup. Okay, technically correct, but you're presenting it as a positive when anyway, I'm shutting up and I'm moving on now because no one's listening anyway. So, I'm just saying, it drives me nuts when people are like, dear God, don't just write things down that not only a lot of DFS writing is just shit because it's average, it's not useful information at all. It's dead information that I don't like, but I get it. You have to fill space. You have to talk for an hour. Hell, a lot of the shit I say over the course of an hour isn't useful information. So I get that, but don't say things that are openly distortive. When the 29th place team plays the 25th pace team, and you're talking about the 29th pace team, and you go, this is a pace-up matchup, that is presented as a positive, when it's actually a negative. So it's not just useless information, it's openly distortive. Okay.
Some timely news here
Pat
from
Bev
this game.
unlikely to play, yeah.
Yeah, and Garrison Matthews available to play for the Rockets.
G Matt. That should be his nickname, by the way. He should be called the law school exam or something. He's the G Matt.
You did mention Christian Wood, 7'3", center only. They're on DraftKings, but still about $1,000 too cheap. I like.
Yeah, he may actually. I think I may have Nurkic marginally better, but this is very, very close, and especially with Norm now taking a break. I do have Nurkic as at 72. I actually have them as the same projection. I have them both at 42.25 fantasy points. Exactly the same for Nurkic and Christian Wood right now. Nurkic is $100 cheaper, so this is going to come down to an ownership question. I think Wood is also higher owned. So I really like Christian Wood. He ranks in my top 5 plays on the slate as far as points per dollar, per value, per expectancy. But if you're telling me I have one lineup, I'm playing Yusuf Nurkic as of this exact moment for a number of variables.
Let's break the game-by-game mold here just for a second, because we've done multiple questions on this game. We've already talked about it a little bit with the Norm Powell news. Naraki saying, so for Sacramento and Portland, two of the faster-paced teams, to what you were just talking about, would you prioritize that game over the others significantly in your builds tonight?
I would. Now, one of the tough things, and I've been working hard on this, is like I have to just watch a lot of Twitter and read a lot of things to get a good guess on ownership. Because a lot of it, like, if looking at that last game, you have, I don't know, what would be good numbers? You have only 19% Nurkic and 17% Simons and only 24% Nasser Little, and then that's gonna be my favorite game, and I would prioritize it. And it's really tough for me at this point, just in honesty. I'm a big fan of saying I don't know something when I don't know, and again, that's another thing I think people suck at. So I don't have a great feel for the ownership disparity across this weird slate. There's much less chatter about it, which is where I gather a lot of my information, because it's a football day and there's just all this stuff going on. So,
well, I know we had a projections and ownership update from Kyle about 10 minutes ago, and looking at this game ownership-wise, Nurkic coming in as the highest owned Portland player, 27.5% currently, but these projections do, at least on my screen, so maybe, not sure when Kyle updated. Okay, said he has to adjust.
5 minutes ago.
Yeah, so I think we'll wait for the next push here to really glean anything from those ownership projections from Kyle.
Wood, Nurk, or Anthony. So if they're talking about, like, he's asking you specifically and not me, so I will defer to you to answer the question.
Well, I would say this, Jay Wynn. I know he's been dabbling on the Superdraft. I would say
format would help.
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't be deciding between those guys on Superdraft, considering they're all different positions. That's probably a utility question on DraftKings. And in that case, 2v2 here. Wood and Nurk, or Simons and Cole Anthony.
Oh, pardon me. I missed. Oh, he edited it. Okay, he slightly miswrote it at the beginning.
I love both of those, man. Like, all 4 of those guys might be in my first lineup on DraftKings.
All 4 of those guys were in my placeholder.
Yeah.
I had Wood Nurk at the double center. Actually, I think Anthony came out at the last moment, but so at this moment I will defer towards the first one, which defrays more money.
Sure.
Because the second one locks Cole Anthony at 6, and
with Wood and Nurkic both sitting at 9s currently in our DK ranks, would you bump either of those guys or both of them up to 10s?
Again, it's more important for me to contextualize it in this conversation. It's sort of like making a change 20 minutes before lock without changing it. And like, news hasn't radically changed either of them. I mean, it's changed Nurk a little bit with the news that so you have no Norm nor no Gary, right? They're both out?
Correct.
I'm just saying they get traded for each other, and then so there's a little bit of a cookie there. But at this point, I almost feel like changing one from a 9 to a 10, but changing both is weird. Like, I probably would have had them both at 10s, but that was a very nominal call from the beginning. And at this point, since you always publish the first version, rewriting it without a stronger, reason behind it would be tough for me. So
Well, how do you feel about those guys in relation to Nikola Jokic, who's sitting at 10?
Yeah. So for me, I would probably prioritize them both over Jokic. I worry about a blowout. I know they're in OKC. I think they're only like 8-point favorites, but that OKC team is high variance in the nth degree.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably rather run both the cheaper guys. Jokic, I mean, the guy keeps putting up 20, like he's absolutely amazing. The team is getting more healthy. That nominally, like I have Jokic projected for 60.25.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. Depending on exactly what model I use and how close the game is, I could project him for 62 or something. With the change and guys out for Portland, I now have Nurk up to about 43, and I still have Christian Wood at a little over 42.
Mm-hmm.
Those projections are a little sweeter for me. I don't think the ownership disparity is enough, so I think I would keep them down. So for me, I probably would have had both Nurkic and Wood at 10s, but they're right on that line. Like 10 to me means like either A is so ownership discounted or so price discounted that they're absolute must, and neither of those quite apply. So it totally comes in with and I generally defer to you for consistency because you're working on the rankings more days than I am.
Sure.
So I think they should be consistent in theory as well. And so I want your theory to be the dominant one. So at this point, I would probably not boost either of them. I just hope that people are listening to the conversation and they understand and they see projections and I say, this is exactly what I expect. I think they're really strong, to sort of contextualize it a little bit. Again, rankings are weird where do you require 5 10s a day? Do you require 2% of the field to be 10s?
Right.
Do you it's always very nebulous. So, I would not push them to 10s at the moment, but
yeah.
They're outstanding plays. Like all these guys are outstanding plays. We're talking about Cole Anthony, Christian Wood, Yusuf Nurkic, Anthony. All those guys for me project between 41 and 44 fantasy points now, and they all cost 7 to the cheapest is Anthony at 6.5. And the most expensive is Cole Anthony at 7.6, and they all have a real upside. So Cole Anthony, I think I will go on as saying I think he's the highest owned of those 4 players. I'm curious where he comes in his ownership projections.
And what were the 4 players again? Sorry, I was typing in the chat.
Just give me Cole Anthony ownership.
Cole Anthony currently sitting at 31.6% ownership.
Yeah, I was about to say I think he gets to 33. So again, I'm right in there with Kyle. And I think that ends up being the highest of these guys because of time and delay and Sunday and NFL and the nature of NBA and a conscious or subconscious intention to spend money up front and all that junk. So, I probably have Cole Anthony as the lowest of those guys. But yeah, Nurkic, Anthony, Christian Wood, Cole Anthony are the guys who rank well for me.
Raptors will start Kim Birch. Yeah.
Gary Trent to the bench. That's an oddly disparate statement. If he had been
scratched. I guess maybe Blake doesn't know that Gary Trent is out yet.
Well, right. That's what right. I mean, this guy's sort of tweeting ignorance. Like they read it like he's a beat reporter for the team, and they tweeted that that Trent was out 10 or 12 minutes ago. We knew. So the fact that he's following up with they've sent him to the bench, first time they've tweaked this group since getting it. The fact that he's not, following up with that is very interesting. Hey, there you go. Someone immediately went,
as it turns out.
As it turns out, yes. And as in, yeah, they're not going big against Valanciunas, but that's a good example of how, and I've done it too. Like there's a lot of information in the NBA. It's hard to keep track of everything. When you have one team, you should do probably a better job than that. But point being, like I've been like, oh, they must be going big. And someone else is like, no, the other guy got hit by a tricycle. Like, oh, that explains it.
So that
you and I both like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, right?
Yeah, I think he's a really strong value.
Yeah, I think he's a really strong.
You're the highest usage player off the bench in any of these games today?
I doubt it. I could sit here for a minute and I think I'd come up better one, but really fucking high. $3,700 upside ceiling. Can jack up a lot of threes. Don't mind the matchup for that at all. More time maybe if they get ass whooped. And again, open stadium. So
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk a little bit more on Kings, Portland,
Yes, please.
Fortnite, Ricky, and all those guys. Lillard, McCollum, Nance Jr. out. Obviously, Norman Powell joining them on the sidelines tonight. So we've already talked extensively about Yusuf Nurkic. The minutes are up. The usage is extremely solid. Massive double doubles with some peripherals for good measure over his last three. 7-2, just too cheap. 1.25x, I believe, on our sponsor Superdraft. I like him
appropriate.
Yeah, I like him a good bit over there. Still would rather put in Jokic, I think, for just the flat 1x against OKC. But close between him, Towns over there. Wood is a forward, so he doesn't come into play. Bamba kind of on the outskirts of that group for me. Anthony Simons at 6'5", I think is a perfectly fine. I mean, he's a value at 6'5" with Norm Powell.
I was about to say he's still a 6'5", and now you took Norm out. Like he's how much exposure to Portland becomes a really interesting question here because those guys all rank extremely well. Like I think my average number of even though they are not that cheap, Portland guys in a lineup would be pretty high. I mean, those three guys especially. You also add up to like this now picks up for me the floor on minutes for like Covington.
Yes.
Ben McLemore. Like I would rather play Ben McLemore than Garrett Temple at the same price.
Yeah. I think that's so for me, I don't think it moves the needle too much on Bob Cup for me. I think his minutes floor was already pretty solid with Nance being out.
Yep. Yeah, but it's worth an extra minute. I think it probably it would take me 3 minutes to find out, and it's not worth it at this point. But I think my projection for him for minutes would go from 33.5 to 34.5.
Yeah, and Ben McLemore certainly comes into play, but what does this do for you to a guy like Dennis Smith Jr., whose price has not come all the way down yet on DraftKings from when he was like 6K plus, but there's more room for him to get out there on the court now.
Yeah, I think I would end up on both Benny Mac and maybe even CJ Ellaby before I got to Dennis Smith Jr. Like, I don't know how much backing up he'll do there. So like, I think I will reproject this team, but I'm going to have Dennis Smith Jr. at like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like you can pull it. He's 46,
47.
You can certainly pull that. Like it certainly isn't out of play at this point. And there's a chance they go small and play extra guards. And we've seen that before where they'll play Lillard, Simons, McCollum, Trent, like they'll run a lot of guards out there. So I don't think it is crazy, but okay. So we're going to go with that. We will quick this. Cody Zeller will get a little time. Snell probably sees the court. Sure.
You would think he gets back in there now with Norm out.
Yeah, I think Snell plays 12 minutes or something. Let's get him 10.
Luka Doncic is in. Acting coach Sean Sweeney says.
Yep, Sean Sweeney. He's a really good play.
I agree.
Like he's I would make that a priority now. 10-6.
Yeah, I had him as a 9 on both sides if he was in.
Yeah,
Brunson out of play on DK for me now at 7-4.
Yeah.
Not out of play, but I probably wouldn't get to him on Superdraft 1.4.
Yeah, I think I'll end up being overowned probably due to like vestigial ownership there. But Dallas for me, I'm gonna have Doncic, Kleber, and nobody at this point. Like you can play Dwight Powell and you can play Finney Smith.
Yeah, you could Finney Smith if you want.
Like you can do that stuff, but certainly not priorities. Priorities from the first two games for one lineup. Give me a second.
I mean, it's probably Cole Anthony from the Orlando Washington game. Chuma
and
Bamba.
We're saying just pick like priorities. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I would say this: the only guys that would make my pool from that Washington Orlando game are those three Magic. I would in my 20 lineups. I would only have Mo Bamba, Cole Anthony, Chuma Okeke. Pelicans and Raptors. I mean, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is just the guy that stands out to me there at his price on DraftKings.
I don't think he's owned enough. We'll see. I just haven't seen the name enough, and I was already looking at it, and then you mentioned it, so that reinforces the sentiment for me. Yeah, Cole, Bamba, pass on Washington at the moment for me. I just don't think I would play someone. You can certainly play some Bradley Beal. I don't have a problem with that. You can play some Dan Gafford. I don't have a problem with that. But you said priorities. Those are the only guys who would rate as priorities for me. And then, Pelicans, Toronto. I think. We covered it there. You can have some like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I couldn't say is a priority for me. He's going to be like 20% owned. I would probably rather get that to 30, but he's not a priority for me. I would be fine leaving that money off. And Toronto, I mean, you've got better projections for a couple of these guys. With Gary and Norm heading to the bench, if you will. So you can get to, but that would be it for priorities. So my priorities would be Orlando players. I would not have a priority on any other team. I would slightly prefer leaving the money and waiting to any of the Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Brandon Ingram, Valanciunas. Those guys all for me are fine, but not priorities. That's how I'd answer that question.
Sacramento side of that game, we're going to have a lot more interest in this team if De'Aaron Fox, who is questionable with shoulder soreness.
Yeah, so they're out they're out the two centers, right? Holmes and Damian Jones are still out.
Yeah, Metu is now questionable.
Metu's questionable. Harkless is questionable. Fox is questionable, right?
Correct.
Is that
correct?
Yeah. So I will go with let's assign some minutes and make our best guess at who's playing here. Then check my news scrape. Yeah, with Fox, I mean, I think Halliburton is the safest play to scope for, and he's certainly, if you end up having Fox in, which is the most relevant number here. You won't, in theory, you have Fox out, and everyone here gets much more interesting. Halliburton, obviously, he will go from projecting for 36.5 fantasy points in 35 minutes to projecting for 42 fantasy points in 37 minutes. He will become markedly better for me, and he still costs under 7K. And the later that news comes, you may get him at 10% or something. I think that's great. Harrison Barnes covers a couple positions. Minutes are very, very solid. So there's some sort of safe floor there. Has not been in good form recently, but you take Fox out of there. His usage, his production stands up. After that, I don't think anyone's a priority, but you then obviously have Buddy Hield becomes much more appealing as a GPP play. Marvin Bagley is a place you can get to. You can play bagels, but yes, leaving some money off and having a plan there. So having a Halliburton in with a possible switch plan is fine. Having Harrison Barnes in either way is honestly fine. So Alex, I've been an Alex Len guy for a couple of years. I have him right now for 21 minutes and 19.5 fantasy points.
Okay.
That's, not super exciting. They have several centers still to play. They must have known this was coming because they're 5 centers deep on that team.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit more love for him, but
what do you have as do you have a projection around 20 fantasy points, which is the guy's 39, right?
Yeah, it was a little higher, 20, 22.
Okay, well that's a really relevant.
Not crazy, but
you didn't hear, but is Hallie a must if Fox is out?
Oh,
yes, probably, because it won't be before initial lock. Obviously, we're 7 minutes from that, so I think he will be under on must. You do not kill yourself to play him. You don't leave $3,000 on the table.
Would you rather Hallie or Simons?
At that point, I would probably rather go to Tyrese because I think just the ownership disparity. If I had to guess, enough people will sit on Simons, and that news came out early enough with him getting the extra usage there. So I probably would defer to Halliburton at that point. But it's close. They would project very similarly for me.
Well, let's.
You only have NAW from these first 2 games. That's fine. There's plenty of games. I don't have any issue with that. I would kind of like to get an Orlando guy, but I'm not. If you have one lineup and you don't have anyone in these first 2 games other than Alexander Walker, I think that's fine.
Let's talk that Memphis and LA game, the late night gamer.
Quite a bit of mess.
Yeah, because we're gonna love Memphis guys if the news breaks right, but the fact that this game goes off 30
All right,
minutes past the other 7.
catch me up. Yeah, this is the last game by a half hour. It goes off in 3.5 hours. The other game's a half hour before, but I like scoping for these two.
Yeah.
Dylan Brooks is out for a month, right? He
Yes.
wrecked his ankle. Okay,
Yeah.
Steven Adams is out.
Correct.
Ja and Kyle Anderson are questionable.
Yep, and Conchar and Tillman are in.
Conchar and Tillman are in. What about Yves Pont?
I believe he is out.
He is still out. Okay, that's okay. Just making sure I hadn't missed anything. There's been a bit of news on this team today. Because at the start of the day, sorry,
questionable.
Is he questionable?
Okay. Yeah.
All right, let us go ahead. Feel free to discuss.
Well, I've got Ja and Kyle Anderson out right now. Ja, I believe quad injury where he was doubtful coming into the game yesterday. This team is no. I thought this team played yesterday. Yeah, with the Clippers. Yeah, so he didn't play yesterday.
Correct.
That was the matinee, I believe, on Saturday.
Is Bane also? I didn't mention Bane, and Bane is also Q.
Bane is questionable. Yeah,
Bane is questionable. I did not mention Bane. Thank you.
So I have those guys.
It's just a mess. Like we have 4 minutes until the first game locks, and I'm staring at news. Do we want to leave this off for 4 minutes? Except to get like quick, give me your 30-second impressions. Like right now, I will re-project Memphis and the Lakers. I think. Want to do Lakers first? Is this a little easier? I think Center Braun is still very sexy.
Yeah. I just think with Memphis, because again, I have so much interest in Tyus Jones because I'm projecting Ja and Kyle Anderson out. Also, Brandon Clark projecting really well with those guys out. I think the safest way to go, like if you're planning for this, and like the worst scenario is you load up on Tyus Jones right at 4-2, and then Ja plays and Kyle Anderson plays, and that whole thing goes to shit. Maybe putting DeAnthony Melton in your lineups is the safer way to go, because Melton then probably projects better than Tyus if those guys are in. Like 4-6 Melton, you don't love it, but I think I would like having DeAnthony Melton in more than Tyus Jones if that comes to pass, because the other options to swap out here, I mean, even if you've got these guys in your...
So I think your process is really smart. And there's a lot of weird stuff. Like I could see loving Brandon Clark in 2 hours, depending on. I could see absolutely loving Jaron Jackson. Like there's a lot to depending on what comes out here. But I think so Melton. All right, so Melton gets you point and shooting guard. He's not forward eligible, and he's 400 more than Tyus. So you need to set aside $400 more as a minor disadvantage. Yes. You can't just lie. Yeah, I think I agree with you. That's fine. Leaving a spot for Melton with the intention of sitting on it if Ja plays, and pivoting it to Tyus if Ja doesn't. I think that's one correct pivot. That's well done. And then I'm trying to think if there's something else with like you. I think in a similar vein, you'd have to get to utility here, but it's late, so you can certainly do that. Is sitting on Jaron Jackson with the intention to pivot to Bane in the event you're minus Morant. I would rather have Jaron Jackson, I think, if Morant's in, it'd be interesting, but especially if Bane is out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, rather have Triple J.
Yep. When will then be now?
Soon.
Yeah, that's true. What we're watching now. This is now.
T Panthers, who was in first in one of the Spurs Brooklyn showdowns before it went to overtime, dropped to second in the OT. He went K-Cock captain, Eddie, so I know you would love that. He says he's taking the night off. He started drinking after he dropped down from first to second. So having a
how
funny...
much did he take down? I mean, second place is not bad.
$100, something like that on $1.
Okay,
something like that.
No, you gotta love it.
I got it right here.
Love the cock.
75 on $1 entry, so we'll take that.
That's good ROI. Off the top of my head, I would say that's about 75 to 1.
I think that checks out.
I have to math that
not
out.
So good with the math.
No,
let's see, J-Win. Oh yeah, sorry, buddy. I know you said DMs. I'll get in there right now. Minute and a half here, Eddie. Anything else popping in the news from these first two games?
That is what I am digging into. I haven't seen it yet. If it is there. God, I really need to make a new Twitter list of NBA people who never talk about the NFL, because fucking hell.
Yeah, especially
fucking
on Sunday
hell,
shows. Yeah.
Stay on topic. Me saying that is one of the most ironic things ever, but fucking hell, guys, it's basketball. Can we just do basketball? Oh, wait.
Rybut's chiming in a minute before lock here saying, do you guys like Joe Val? He's fine. Yes. Neither of us, Rybuts, prefer him to Christian Wood or Yusuf Nurkic. Correct. I would also rather spend the $3.5K or whatever it is to get up to Jokic.
And
I would also rather have,
and I'd rather save the money, but he's obviously got a giant ceiling. He's going to be less owned than those two guys and Jokic, and will be 7% owned or 9% owned, maybe a little higher than that, but some in that range. Hence,
yep,
yeah.
Let's see, about 30 seconds here until these two games lock. We'll talk ownership, then we'll talk I think we've got 3 games still to touch on, really.
Okay, I can do that. I need to, we'll just have you like read out the ownership before I am in a bit of a hurry. So
yeah, no worries.
It takes you a minute to read it and 8 minutes for me to guess. So I will save those 7 minutes to actually do our job a little bit. But yeah, again, fucking pace drives me crazy. Like, if nothing else, like, let's assume you can't figure out that incredibly complicated math of how the price is generated. It's the average of a range of outcomes. So, like, assuming you can't even do that, don't you understand that if you're a writer and you write down, you're writing about the 30th pace team and you write, hey, this is a pace-up matchup for them. Does your brain not ping you and go, wait a minute, I would have written that about every team? Like, something about the process. Just I have a low bar is all I'm saying.
This did give me a laugh, Rybut's after we go really quickly through our center priorities, he goes, fuck it, locking J Val.
It's good.
I appreciate you checking in first, though.
It's not like, what's his ownership? We hit the lock. What's the ownership on J Val? I'll go with 9.2%.
All right.
Which I think is about right, but
J Val, 4.45%.
Oh, way to go, brother. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, the difference between 4 and 9% is infinitely less relevant than the difference between 24 and 29%, or certainly 40 and 90% by proportion. So he's single digit owned.
Yeah. Rybuts goes, the way this NFL slate has gone, I don't even care at this point. He says he's playing light anyway. So hey, but 4% J Val at 8-4 in this spot, like, it's fine.
Yeah, that's I like. Do I think it is a great idea? No, but I don't think I think it's.
You're not out of contention, like, right off the bat. That's for sure.
Yeah, there are any number of ways. Like, you get away from some chalk centers, like something to the order of, I will pick a number. 91% of lineups tonight will have Jokic, Nurkic, or Wood in them. And in the event they all have bad games, which again is not likely, but doesn't need to be predominantly likely when you're getting a guy at 4%. Like, J Val in theory could outscore Wood and Nurk, and Jokic could have 53. And J Val could have 47, and you could pick up some real, like, it's fine. I would not feel terrible if I were you right now.
Josh saying he has 100% Lockett and Jefferson today. Played Patrick Taylor. I played Patrick Taylor too, and I had Lockett in, Eddie, in the Gold Club. Swapped him out right before lock for Devin Singletary. So 2 touchdowns for Lockett.
I had Brett Hundley. How did that go for me?
I'm not sure. Did he get in? I'm not sure he got in.
He did not get in.
Okay. Yeah.
I
had Jordan Love in one, and I keep seeing Aaron Rodgers come out. He plays the whole first half, and then
my two quarterbacks today were Brett Hundley and Garoppolo.
Garoppolo played.
He just got a touchdown. He went to halftime with a quarter fantasy point. That's pretty strong. I had that's my better team, and it has a Garoppolo Kittle stack, which at halftime had collectively 2 fantasy points. Power.
Holy shit, man! Cam Akers. I cannot believe he's playing.
Wow.
Torn Achilles. 3 carries, 3 yards, 2 catches, 4 yards. Just the fact that he's fucking on an NFL field.
God bless him. That's awesome. Impressive.
Luka will not have a minutes limit per acting coach Sweeney. And the ownership from these 2 games, Eddie.
Sweeney. Yeah,
Cole Anthony up top 29%. Garrett Temple.
Okay, so that was very nice. I got to tip my hat to Kyle. I always give him shit when I get it right and he gets it wrong. He had 31, I had 33. So you closer. Good job.
He had 25 for Garrett Temple, and Garrett Temple is indeed 25% owned.
Yeah, I had 23, so nice.
Nikhil Alexander Walker 17, Herb Jones
I had 19.
12.
I had 13. Okay, yeah, I was right on.
Chuma and Mo Bamba both 12.
Yeah, that's about what that's okay. That's as expected. Nothing there crazy good. Like J Val at 4 might be my favorite of that crowd.
8.5 Fred VanVleet at 10-2 is too much for me.
That's too highly owned.
Yes. I'm not chasing wasn't it a career game last time out?
Yes, he had, I believe, his first career triple-double.
That's right. 37.
I believe that was his 70 fantasy point. That was literally his first career triple-double because he had been commenting the week before. He kind of threw a little subtle shade at Russell Westbrook where he was like, look, I don't have any triple-doubles. Like he specifically alluded to it last week.
Yeah, you got to ring.
I am not chasing those stats like Russell Westbrook. Like I believe that was Fred who made that call out. Someone correct me if I'm wrong here, but someone came out and said like, I don't have triple-doubles because the team doesn't push them to me and I don't chase them. And as a guard, getting X rebounds unless you're really concentrating on it. Like I'm leading the fucking break and I'm playing defense. Like it's like,
right. I had not heard that comment, but well done by him.
Not a lie.
All right, so let's see. We kind of left off when we dove into those later games. Left off.
Want to do Thunder,
Denver
a little more. Like we didn't really get in there. Like I alluded to it when talking about what I think about Joker.
Yeah, let's do Denver, OKC, Bulls, Mavs, and then we'll finish off with the return of Clay.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Denver side.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. He's one of my. All right, I'll leave it off for the Clay conversation, but I have Clay comments.
Denver side, obviously Jokic going to project for above 60 here against the Thunder. 12-2. You're paying for
just a hair over it for me. Yeah, just like points per dollar. I have LeBron projected slightly better. I have LeBron for like a point less and $600 less. I'm a big fan of LeBron in this spot.
So am I. I had him a little bit behind points per dollar, but not by much.
I have him slightly ahead points per dollar at like 1.5 fantasy points left. I have LeBron for like 59 or something. Center LeBron is a fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like center LeBron is like center Magic Johnson. Go back and look at the games that Magic Johnson. Like it's really like people talk about LeBron. Is he the next Jordan? Is he the next Jordan? LeBron is a better Magic Johnson. And Magic Johnson was the shit. Related story. Like Magic Johnson was the fucking man. LeBron is Magic. He's not Michael. Like he is a slightly better Magic Johnson, who is the best, if you do not count LeBron James, because he spent 98% of his playing time in the league next to someone else who was playing point guard. But Magic Johnson is the best point guard. Like, again, I always enjoy the who's the best at this position conversation because point guard is incredibly tough because number one is Magic Johnson, and then good luck. Like, literally, there are 11 people tied for second. You can throw out so many names for the second best point guard ever that are very, very valid. Like, shooting guard is like Jordan, then Kobe, and then you can throw out a pile of names for third. But point guard is literally Magic. Good luck. Literally doesn't. I would spend some time listing out the number of viable options there, and we can do it now or do a pod at some point. But like, there's literally at least 8 guys who you would be like, this is the second best point guard ever. I'd be like, it's not unfair. It's not on baseball. It's a really long list.
Well, outside of the Joker, one thing that I wanted to ask you about. Yeah, I've seen JaMychal Green projected like way too high across the industry. Am I missing something?
Very Garrett Temple. Yeah, I mean, they're coming around healthy, and even the news that Bones Highland is going to return.
Yeah.
For me, I think that in my last route dropped JaMychal from 23 to 22 minutes. So I have JaMychal Green for 22 minutes, and I think 19 3/4 fantasy points. He's fine. He projected almost exactly like Garrett Temple. You can certainly get there. Don't forget Russell Westbrook.
Yeah. Well, shout out to 50 Lions here. Here it is from FVV. I just can't make myself hunt it the way I need to. He said, being the shortest guy on the court doesn't really help chasing the rebounds down. And my teammates, they're not giving me the Westbrook treatment where they get out of the way and let me go get it. I might have to talk with them about that. So I guess
ironically, 4 days after that, he recorded his first career triple. Like everyone thought it was tongue in cheek. I'm not sure he didn't do a look, guys. Triple double, everyone gets a Rolex deal. Like I don't know if that was a Stockton is second. That's absolutely like. Feel free in the chat amongst yourselves, come up with a list. Stockton, I don't know who my 2 is. Like by stats, Stockton is the all-time leader in assists and steals, and ain't nobody getting close anytime soon. Like, I don't know how long those are going to hold up. That dude had some longevity and was very, very good for a long time. Like, Stockton is a perfectly viable choice, but there's like 8 other guys you can put next to it. It's like Stockton, Kidd, Paul, Kuzi. There's just like a long list that does not include Russell Westbrook. And I love Russell Westbrook. There are people who just like casual basketball fans will look at his stats and watch it. Like, again, if you're a casual basketball fan, the number one thing is like counting stats. It's just like points per game. So he's like, I averaged a triple-double for 3 years. If you know nothing about like efficiency and advanced stats and how well you make the team work and all that, you have to look at Russell Westbrook and be like, how the fuck is this guy not the greatest ever? Like, he averages triple-doubles for years and scores infinite. And then the next thing is the eye test. You're like, Jesus, look at this fucking guy. So yeah, it actually kind of reminds me a lot of DFS. Like, most people judging how good a player actually is at making their team, and they kind of suck at it because they're just using superficial data. And that's the same thing as people are like, this guy's a great DFS player. I can't tell you how many of the professional DFS players, the touts on Twitter, are legit bad. There's a good number that are legit bad. A lot of them are just legit average or slightly better than average, and they just have fucking bankrolls. But I will, like, you know, or you have other jobs and you can afford to whatever. But yeah, if you've heard of them and they're touting, they're probably not that fucking good, because they're doing that job to make an additional 50 grand a year. And if you're so fucking good that you're raking it in, like, if you're amazing, if you're one of the top 5-10 guys in the world in DFS, you don't do and again, I was making money every day. I never considered hosting shows until legally I wasn't allowed to because of my job, because it didn't make sense. There was no way the time was worth it for me to do that. And the best players in the world, most of them never get on air because it doesn't make sense. You want to play and you're winning, and every dollar you put in has an EV of $1.04. So you want to play more dollars. You don't want to play less dollars and be on air leading up to but I guess my point would be, if you and I both played a ton of DFS this next year and we both averaged, like, if you did $6 million in entries and I did $8 million in entries and we both won $7 million, you can't tell the fucking difference from afar. But you had a great year where you put in 6 million and made back 7, which is 17% EV, which is outstanding, and we're positive $1 million. And I lost $1 million, and it looks exactly the fucking same unless you're somehow scraping a lot of information. So it's just really funny where people are like, oh, that guy must be really good. I saw him win $7 million. Like, no, no, he's not. Yeah, everybody coming at Westbrook. Okay, so sorry, Denver. Jokic is a bit obvious. I don't have anything to add. It's the way I will phrase that. I do worry about a blowout even on the road. He's incredible. He's incredibly expensive, and the opportunity of the other reason I'd rather LeBron is giving you all the best positions. Jokic is taking from you the best position and making you not play other good plays. And again, I think I have Jokic projected a little lower than most people, where I'm just over 60. I have LeBron at like 59, which I think is a little higher than most people. And again, LeBron center is a real thing, and I don't think most people are projecting up for that. That's just my take. I don't think a lot of the sites that are projecting LeBron are understanding that it's a different thing when he plays center. But yeah, I really like Jokic. I am a pretty big fan of Will Barton. I think there's a very reasonable ceiling there, and this team is going into a lot of other guys who just can't score the bucket. And Will Barton, Terrence Ross we talked about, similar to that. And Barton's better than Terrence Ross. Now he's $600-700 more, but you know, he projects at like 33 fantasy points for me. And there's a ceiling on top of that. So, like, I think Will Barton ends up very under-owned in a good matchup. So, I think, I don't know about very under-owned. I've seen ownership other places from as low as 8 to as high as 20%. What does our good friend Kyle have Will the Thrill at?
Pre-lock, he had him at 21.7 on DK.
Okay. So he's on the high end there. I thought in my original run, just because I hadn't seen a lot, I had him at 12 or 14. And I liked him a lot more than that. 20 is about appropriate. But again, 20%, that's obviously a quality play. So keep an eye on Will the Thrill there. And then past that, you can get the passable value of Aaron Gordon at 5K. Yeah. You know, Jermichael, which we mentioned, very Garrett Temple. It projects absolutely fine. Probably Bones Highland coming back was enough for me to be a little low. Westbrook is the most disrespected player of all time. I mean,
Yeah.
In the NBA, because like again, people are disrespected for reasons of race and color. I mean, there's a lot of ways disrespected in basketball, but
I don't think he is. He has MVP.
Yeah, it sucks because I like Westbrook as a human being, and I hate having to be on the analytics dickhead side of analysis. But again, as a point guard, your most important job is to make your offense more efficient. Almost always, when you take Russell Westbrook off the court, the offense gets more efficient. I don't know how to say it any better than that. And you can't be a guard and not shoot from outside. Yeah. Like you can't.
I also still maintain my having a child theory with his free throws. I think that it affects him more than the timing changes because he had his first kid and he dropped. I mean, you and I have had this conversation off stream.
Yeah, I thought it was the timing change where they literally went to the 10-second thing, like they were counting down Giannis and that whole fucking bit.
Yeah,
and that really affected him because he had this weird thing where he would literally take his first free throw and do a walk.
Yeah, walk
for like 15 seconds. Like he would walk out of the circle to half court and like stretch and go get it and do it like this. And they said, yeah, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
That had been his free throw routine for 15 years. So, apparently I don't know. But yeah, having the kid and he's a great, colorful dude. And fuck, it's exciting to watch him play basketball. So I hate to be that guy. But yeah, you're the point guard. Your job is to make the offense run more efficiently. He doesn't do that well. And your second job is to be a decent defender. And he doesn't always do that well. So this is how the Warriors pulled up to the arena today. Everyone in Klay jerseys. That's great. All right, so I'm going to do my Klay Thompson thing now. Do we have? Sorry. Did you have anything else on Denver? And do you want to briefly discuss the Oklahoma City Thunder?
I'm pretty much in lockstep with you on how I would approach Denver. Just like passable values with those guys you talked about, but not priorities for me. DraftKings with the salaries on OKC, I don't really have interest in any of them. I think it would be SGA if I was going to attack an OKC player, but there's just
they're all a little too expensive. I would probably rather fire a Dort bullet, but I'd probably rather Dort at 5.2 than SGA at 8.2. Giddey at 7 is in play, but I like a run back if you're going to go with Jokic. I don't think it's necessary, but if you have Jokic, getting to SGA doesn't bother me at all. It projects for a little more than 40, but again, that's the same thing as Wood and Simons and all those other guys who cost well less. But
they're better plays on Superdraft, SGA and Giddey, 1.2 and 1.4, I believe. Good question from Anthony before we talk Klay. Would you Luka or LeBron now with Luka in and no minutes limit?
Yeah, I'd probably have to Luka.
In tournaments, certainly, right?
Certainly. Yeah, I didn't cash. I think it's probably LeBron. But in Luka, I mean, this really comes down to where we think the ownership is going to land. I think Luka is going to be like 6%.
All right. Oh, anything from Chicago, Dallas outside of Luka is a great play. I think Chicago's just all kind of priced appropriately. None of those top 4 guys really stand out to me.
Yeah,
you could get away probably with the Derrick Jones Jr., but I don't think it's for me on this 8-game slate.
Yeah, Derrick Jones Jr. Projects a little worse for me than those other guys we've talked about from JaMychal, and Garrett Temple is obviously locked already. But again, 24 minutes, 18 fantasy points for him. I think I had him nominally the worst of the 3. I think he's going to be the lowest owned of the 3. You can throw him in there. Have a good time. Not any kind of priority. DeRozan at 9, Levine at 9, Vooch at 9 even. I think I would Vooch first just for 1.5% ownership with some kind of upside. But yeah, there is nothing there that stands out as woefully underowned or underpriced for me.
How about the Dallas side? I mean, we kind of talked about Brunson, Finney-Smith, Kleber, etc.
Yeah, for me, it's Luka. I'm going to really like it. Single-digit ownership. Kleber is absolutely acceptable with no Porzingis out there again. He's going to play more than 30 minutes. He's going to project for it to I legitimately like Kleber still. Forward only, but still forward. So for me, it'd be Doncic, Kleber. At this point, I'm done, I think. Like, you can play Jalen Brunson. Like, he still has a lot of equity, and Luka is probably not 100%, and still no Porzingis. So I don't think Brunson is crazy. I just don't know, because he was going to be, 35% owned. He's now going to be 25% owned. That's still probably too high, but it's not like Jalen Brunson isn't still going to project fine, but he's going to project for 30 fantasy points as opposed to all these other guys who projected for 40 at the same price.
All right, Cleveland, Golden State. Before we talk Clay, Cleveland. Am I out of line, Eddie, for having my favorite Cavalier beat Rajon Rondo tonight?
Out of line. I mean, you've earned your spot on the show. I guess it's not. You're not Junior G-Man anymore. Your opinion is as valid as mine at this point. So, no, you're entitled to have your favorite Cavalier on the show. I have Rajon Rondo for, if memory serves, 19 minutes and 15 and a quarter fantasy points. This makes him not a priority for me. Please discuss why to you. He is someone who we should look at in his declining years. Lord knows I know what that's like.
Sorry, just finishing a message to our good buddy Ricky.
Which Ricky? Superdraft?
Stroud.
The good man and thorough. Tell him I said hi. Tell him I'm on air with Eddie.
That's what I did tell him.
We're openly mocking you. Okay.
So the thing for me with Rondo, Eddie, is I just think that they're going to utilize him in the upper teens in terms of minutes here against Golden State. And with Garland still at 8-7, the front court completely healthy and stocked in terms of their depth.
Beefy.
Yeah, very beefy. That Cleveland front court. I believe they did convert Brandon Goodwin to a two-way contract. They did, but they traded for Rondo to be a part of this rotation. He won't have as big of a role as Ricky Rubio did, but I do think they want him out there as a secondary ball handler. I think
Rubio is such money this year for us.
For you.
For me. I don't know. Sorry. I don't know. Again, I think I said his name 3 times. There were 3 good fucking times. Was that the guy where you were like, why do you like this guy? And I'm like, I just like it. No, it wasn't him. It was Hayward.
That was
Gordon. How did Hayward do on that Wednesday? I think he laid it down. He had
he
30.
Did great. And so when you weren't here this past Wednesday, everybody was like, it's Wednesday. Are we playing Gordon Hayward? He didn't end up putting his thing down on this past Wednesday.
Okay,
but, so I'm glad it's caught on.
Wednesday's plus me. But
yeah, exactly.
I want to start tweeting Tuesday nights in the Hayward household and have softcore porn, and people be like, what are you? What do you want about there?
To finish off the Rondo thing, even though he's obviously not the same player, even as he's not the same player he was in the Lakers last championship run in the bubble, but 3-3, especially on a showdown or a late slate, I think he's a pretty sneaky value. I mean, got 17 minutes last game, 24 and a quarter DK points, and shot 2 for 9. I just think he has an elevated opportunity here and is a better play than the price reflects on DraftKings tonight.
Yeah, I think the upside is there. I think he's 2% owned, and I think he can. I let you get a cheap piece of this going back. I'm absolutely fine with it. I'm not. I would rather get there than Jamichael.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd rather get there than Garrett Temple, stuff like that. So I think he's absolutely fine to get to in tournaments. I can't super prioritize it because it's such a movable feast, and I don't what do you have for minutes? I had 19, and I thought that was optimistic, and I should have scrolled it back to 18.
Yeah, I had 18.
All right, so
low 20s in fantasy points for me, and that's probably too optimistic, but
I think more than a fantasy point a minute for him is too optimistic. I don't think I can.
He fucking smashes when he gets to if he's out there and he's able to do his thing, he's not constrained.
Oh, and some people will be watching this game.
Yeah,
he is a TV player.
Yeah.
Again, just because you can't quantify it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Okay, so I think using revenge games as part of your strategy in DFS is a bad idea. I think it's irrelevant 70% of the time and untrackable 28% of the remaining time. There are a couple guys who are vengeful motherfuckers or personal matchups. When you put TJ Warren and Jimmy Butler on the court, that is a fucking thing. I don't know how to define that thing or how to quantify it, but that's a real thing. So Rondo being on the biggest watched game of the night on TV with Clay coming back and wanting to whatever the fuck, that's something. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you exactly what that something is, but I think it is fair to say that I would have to, you put a gun to my head. Yeah, I would increase Rondo's projection by, I would say I can't tell you by how much. His projection should be higher because of all the fuss around this game. He has always been an ABC, ESPN, Tuesday night, whatever kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a thing. So Clay, Clay gets in the group of How did my 3% chance go?
The people have been waiting, Eddie,
Really?
to hear the conclusion.
It went well. I dropped later that night in chat. I don't think almost anyone noticed it, but I dropped a 3% was too low. About an hour after the show.
I did not see that.
Yeah, about an hour after the show, I just put in the chat. I didn't respond. I was just right. 3% was too low as a. So yes, my wife, who I've been with for 18 years, she and I did have sex. Congrats on the sex. Hashtag team sex. It was very good for having been with the same woman for 18 years. Let me tell you, you got to get interesting. Like we pack a duffel bag of accoutrements to take to Mexico, and so you gotta keep your life, interesting. I may or may not have like some red marks that spell out the word bitch because that's what's written on the paddle. Like it's a whole thing, but you gotta enjoy yourself. You only have one chance in life, and
I think Anthony's happy with that recap from you there. So
there you go. That was more details than certainly anyone needed. But
let's talk Splash Brothers here.
I just love Clay because he grew his game so much when he came into the league, and he didn't focus on what a lot of other guys in his position would do, which is like getting better off the dribble and shit. Like he didn't. It is so hard to develop as a basketball player, especially when you get into NBA. So I have a huge soft spot for guys who radically change their game and improve after they get into the league. Mm-hmm. So Brooke Lopez, who just radically changed his game from being a defensive liability, I can't rebound, interior only guy, Andre Drummond-like guy for a decade with the Nets, and then went, wait a minute, I'm going to become an incredibly good defender and an elite three-point threat in his 12th year in the league. I love that shit. I think my favorite is still Tristan Thompson, who switched his shooting hand once he was in the NBA. Jesus Christ. Like, obviously not the guy you want to bring home to mama. Yeah. Maybe not the best family man, but fuck me, is that amazing to like. So I love guys who improve their game, and Clay came into the league, and unlike everyone else, kept taking his shots and realized, I am playing with a Hall of Fame point guard in Steph Curry. I am playing with a Hall of Fame forward, an incredible distributor for a guy of his size, and Draymond Green. These guys can move the ball around. I do not need to work on my Jamal Crawfords. And so he went out and became just one of the best knockdown shooters. Again, you look at those games where he had 45 points on 4 dribbles. Mm-hmm. And he went from being legitimately bad defensively in his first year. Legitimately bad. I remember shitting on him and being like, Jesus Christ, this guy, to becoming a very, very good defender. Not locked down. He wasn't fucking Tony Allen, but he was really good. So I'm a big fan of the team and Clay for evolving him as a player in that unique ecosystem in which he existed, and doing it on the highest stage like that. So I'm a big Clay Thompson fan. I enjoy watching him play. And by most accounts, a very righteous dude. That's what I was going to say, is that by all accounts, off the court, just a fucking great guy. Yeah. Did you see the thing where he was walking down the street in New York City and got interviewed by an on-the-street reporter about like construction in the area? And he's just like, yeah, I'm from out of town, so it hasn't been too good. Like, he doesn't say I'm Clay Thompson. Look at my rings. He just goes like, well, it hasn't been a big thing for me. I'm just a transient. But speaking of dribbles, 11 dribbles with that 60-point game, of course. So that's insane. I can't tell you how much happier every basketball team I ever played on would have been if I only dribbled 11 times in a game. I've never been 11 times in a game. We were in trouble. So yeah, I have never put the ball down with any. Like I can back guys down. Jesus, what is it with me today? Must be all these boner pills. The stale dick pills. The stale dick pills. It's gonna be the name of my James Dolan-esque blues band. The stale dick pills, coming to you from the Hard Rock Cafe in New Orleans. Oh man, stale dick pills. That's why they don't work anymore. I thought I just didn't take enough. Yeah, but I have never had handles. If I get on a flow, I have a really I can go through my legs. I can just step back. I have a couple for 2 seconds. I can be very decent with handles. I can get 2 good dribbles off, but I cannot do an extended this around that guy and through guy. I've never been able to do it. So defense, spot ups, back some guys down where like I've gotten older and bigger, and it's like, well, I'm bigger than you, so I'm gonna do it that way. But yeah, it sucks because I've always been able to pass. I can pass really well. Shooting has been a movable feast.
Speaking of passing, did you see I forget who tweeted it, but it might have been the Sixers account or somebody, but Embiid throws this like behind the head pass to Matisse Thybulle, and they said, "Oh, Embiid with the no look," and you look at the slow mo,
he's staring right at him. He's like, "Yeah, no look." No look has become a paraphrase for not staring right at you, chest pass. Like there's plenty of times where a guy is driving and the guy's down here, and you see him look at him, but his head is pointing that way, so they go, "Oh, that's a no look." It's like, no, it's a no turn head, but it's that's fine. Like, you know what it means. He was deceptive about the like where he was looking. So you go that way, but you tilt your eyes back down the court, and then like even if you use an odd motion where like you pick the ball up LeBron style, big hands, and you go like this, but you actually like cup it to the left, or you go like this and then you push it out to the right, or you do any of that. Look at that no look. There are actual no looks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like I played basketball 30 years. I did like 7 of them where they would call, or like I would just know this guy was breaking. So I would like, we would get a long rebound. I'd lead the break on the right. Someone would be coming up on my left. I could hear him, and I could know 2 guys were converging on me. And so I would just take the ball and like toss it around my back and lob it up near the rim because I knew someone on my team was running with me over there, and it worked out. But I just used sound, or what basically is vector dynamics, to know where to throw the ball. Pretty fucking rare.
That LaMelo behind the back, that was a no look last night off the tip, and then that was great. I think one of my favorites, as Patrick Beverley out as expected, was the Pistol Pete, where he's leading the break, and it's not totally no look because you can see, but they'll like tap, throw his hand around the ball, and then oh god, love that.
The spin ones. Did you see the one? Did Terry Rozier do that the other day? Someone
did like that.
The scoop pop back to me thing with the
dude. We had a guy when I was a freshman in high school who was a senior, and when he was an underclassman, he was ranked like top 5 point guard in the nation. Ended up just eating a bunch of fast food and becoming overweight, and I don't even know if he made it past JUCO. It sucked, but he was so fucking good. His name was.
That's such a shame. You ever hear Kobe talk about what Shaq would have been if he had any kind of work ethic?
What's that?
You ever see that clip where they asked Kobe what Shaq would have been if he had his work ethic?
Yes, but I don't remember like what he.
Yeah, they're like, Kobe, how good do you think Shaq would have been if you had your work ethic? He's like, oh my god, he would have been the best player ever. Like he's like shocked at the concept. He's like, I cannot imagine if.
Yeah. That was the first. I think my first varsity practice as a freshman, I saw Courtney throw one of those passes and I was bamboozled by that pass. Unfortunate that he didn't get to a higher level. Juan T now listed available.
The best pass of my life, not as far as the skill it took, but to observe it. And this is going to be a bad story. I'm going to try to tell this, but this is going to be a bad story because it's one of those you had to be there things. So I'll cut it down to a flat 15 seconds. But we're in the half court, and someone else takes a 3-pointer, and it gets a weird bounce off the rim, low and hard, and is going out of bounds in the corner. And I run after it, jump, catch it in this hand, and windmill it back through my leg. So I'm jumping out of bounds on the corner, and I catch the ball with one hand over my head, and in one motion, bowling ball it back through my own wickets. At like 1,000 miles an hour, because I'm flying through the air, and I do this as hard as possible. I manage not to just pound the ball into my own nuts at 100 miles an hour. It whips through my legs, past like 4 people who go into the hands of our center, who's standing under the court, just catches it, immediately taps and like alley-oops it in. People are like, completely lucky. But one of those plays I would give so much money to have on tape. It was the most absurd thing anyway. Like literally, I threw it like 80 miles an hour through my legs as I'm flying through the air. People are like shot past multiple people's heads over their shoulders, right into the hands of our guy who laid it in. People are like, whoa, and I'm like, yeah, we'll take that, but I'm not gonna lie, that was some bullshit right there. Some bullshit. But yeah, that's one of.
Oh man.
Again, this is in the 1990s, back in the days before everything that occurred was on camera.
Man, I need to get out and play some ball.
I do too. My knee's in shape to do it again. Last time I played, I hurt my knee pretty bad, so I had to take by hurt my knee pretty bad, I mean tweaked it slightly, which is a 1-month injury at this point. I pulled the full Markeef. Ooh, that hurts a little.
Did you see his ass fucking tweet the other day?
You got some balls calling somebody fat when they're that much better than you.
Hey, I think I said it in the chat. I don't know, but my first thought is, oh, well, the Jokic brothers went back to Serbia, right? Because there ain't no way he's tweeting that shit with them anywhere in his vicinity. He does not want that smoke.
The Jokic brothers literally made a Twitter account to threaten guys on the Heat, got 1 million followers, and shut it down in like a week.
Did they have 1 million followers?
Oh, I have no idea what the number was. We got X 100,000, whatever. Just got a huge amount of followers. We're like, fuck yourself. We'll kill you. We'll actually kill you. And then like deleted the account and went back to Serbia. Like, I love. One of the nice things about traveling, this is a hell of a segue, but just people live their life so much differently than we do. Just if you go to, I don't know, sub-Saharan Africa or the Middle East or even China, if you go to the southern half of China where it's all manufacturing, it's amazing to just realize how limited we are is the way I would look at it. Like we have so many social constraints and ethical constraints and cultural constraints and financial constraints and all these things that really cause our view of what, like for some of us, we'd be like, I'm going to do some more, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example. I'm going to do some more exercise this week. I'm going to walk a mile. Like there's people who are, digging in salt mines 8 hours a day. And I'm going to like dietary and just time looking at the sun. And it's just temperature. And it's really interesting. Travel is one of those things that until you do it, you don't understand. It's like having kids. Like before you have kids, you're like, I'm gonna have a kid, and you think like, oh, this is gonna be weird. I'm gonna enjoy watching the kid grow up, but I'm gonna play less video games. And like you just don't get it until you do it, and then you're like, oh, okay, that changed the universe. Gotcha. Now I understand.
This won't change the universe, but interesting to me, JaMychal Green starting for the Nuggets. So maybe those projections I saw that I thought were too high were actually spot
on. Like he's going to project a little better for me now. So
he gets to I had him at a 7 in the DK ranks. He gets to an 8 for me now. Derek Favors starting on the other side. JRE at the 4.
Interesting. Not actionable really, but interesting. I don't think that does a lot for us. Poku to the bench, I think.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that
didn't JaMychal start the last 2 games? I thought I had him at one of the last 2, but again, this is one of them. Why don't you check? We should see if we have aired here. Did JaMychal start each of the last 2 games? I had him as possible to start, so that was not my impression. Their last 2 games were
he started last game, not the one before.
He started Sacramento, but not Utah, right? Where he was available and played, I think, if I'm getting that right. And last game he started and played 22 minutes?
Yeah, 22.
Right. So.
And played a little bit above his head, 6 of 8 from the field, 9 boards.
Yeah. So,
he goes for me, he goes from somebody I didn't want to get any exposure to somebody that it's now acceptable. Like he's a fine value at his price.
Yeah, I don't think I have a take. I'd rather play Rondo in tournaments. Again, obviously, variously different center positions, but he might go up to 23 minutes now for me. I do think 22 is probably a little low.
Sure.
But Highland is back, who wasn't in that last game, and he played 22. Like
Bones.
I got a boner I have a boner on Top Shot. I still have one.
I was gonna say, speaking of Top Shot, how are you looking? How are things shaping up for the Clay Challenge for you tonight?
I don't think I have a chance at it. Like I could throw some money at it if I want, but I don't have, as you and I discussed this last week, any rare 3-pointers. So like,
I had 2.
You had 2, right? So you could buy one in the Clay. You could buy one in the Clay and Fire in theory. I will check. I'm fairly certain I am on 0.
I was luckily at my desk when the challenge dropped yesterday, so I got a Clarkson 3 MGLE for like 115 or something.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, now they're all like 170 or higher.
Yeah, that seems to be the 4.
Yeah.
And I did open because the having to have either the Clay debut or the Clay deck the hoops caused a lot of people who were holding their Clay moments in the packs to open because the jersey number wasn't open.
Right.
And so I saw the jersey number was open, so I opened my second one. Probably gonna flip that one, but you could need 2 Clay moments tonight if he ends up in the top 5. Probably not gonna happen, but
yeah, I have. How many minutes do you have from him? It's 15 to 20, right? They say
20 is the limit. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not 0. It's 3-pointers made, right?
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
By the way, I want to give you an update. Cavaliers defense did some digging. Still don't know why it's good. I'm several hours into this. We're halfway through the season here. At some point, I will determine why that team is like. There's obviously some individual growth of players. Sexton going out helps. The growth of Okoro in his second year. Like there's. Still shouldn't be this good. So I'm gonna have to do some more work on that.
Well, I did just open up the Twitters. See, on Twitter at least, we have one person watching us right now. So
there's one person watching
on
us?
Twitter. I don't know if the YouTube is different or people are
one
watching.
is an absolutely hilarious number.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing more shows. Like apparently we're not drawing in the.
Yeah, people don't want to hear my shit every day, Eddie. Like there's too much Spurs. There's too much.
Your shit is great. Much as like I think your shit's wonderful. There is a chance you're a better complement than focus.
Sure.
But that's the thing with a lot of fields. It's the thing with basketball players.
Yeah.
There are guys that like Scottie Pippen is probably a better complement than focus. That may be a little dismissive of Scottie Pippen, but you understand what I'm saying. And Scottie Pippen is a great fucking basketball player. Like there are, you may be Pat Summerall to my John Madden here.
I feel like I'm more like a Pascal Siakam to your Kawhi Leonard.
I don't even know how to. There's a couple of people in chat who are like, I'm watching. There's like 6 of us total, counting the people here. At this point, it's great because I don't know if we pay the producer by the hour, but there is a point where this absolutely is not a viable product. Like FTN is just spending $1 an hour for you and me to talk about me taking boner pills in Mexico. Which
there's 30 plus people watching on YouTube, so
that's disappointing. Disappointing. I was hoping we had a really fun there.
Yeah, that was going to be.
Nikhil Alexander Walker banged in a couple of threes, or 1 3 in a couple buckets, so he's doing pretty well. J-Val for the guy who locked J-Val. Game's not over yet. 2-2-1 for J-Val. No fouls, so that feels good. In his first 9 minutes.
Just getting started.
You can get some work done there. Not a lot there. Fred, by the way, 13 points, 1 assist, no other stats in 12 minutes.
His teammates just don't clear out like some other teams.
They don't help him. Favorite 5,200 and under forward, last man in on DKGPP. If you don't have Kleber, it's probably still Kleber for me for a second.
Yeah, now that Chuma's gone. Let me just make sure I'm taking these early games out. You said
like there are probably some GP, but like you can do Aaron Gordon.
Bob Cub, Nasir Little though. Nasir Little's my
Nasir Little. Yeah, Nasir Little is the. If you don't have Nasir Little, he projects far better than anyone else who fills those requirements. If you want another one,
it's him and Bob Cub for me, and then you're talking Aaron Gordon, Dorian Finney-Smith,
Brandon Clark.
Yeah. If the news breaks right, of course.
Yeah, Brandon Clark, again, a lot of news dependent there, but Brandon Clark would rank in there for me. And then
you would Kleber over Bagley, right?
Yeah, I think so. He can't afford Harrison Barnes by 200. But Kleber, and especially if that $800 does something for an upgrade somewhere else. But yeah, you have a number of good options there.
Slow chiming to say, there's 32 people watching on YouTube.
Wow, look at that.
Whoever's that one person on Twitter, shout out to you. One person using Twitter to check out the Live with Fast Eddie Fear stream. James Ennis being passed around by
go for it.
He's being passed around.
God damn it. I was like, come on, Zach, lean out a little bit. We literally talked about me taking boner pills and being spacked. That's my 4th inability to speak on the show today. I don't know what it is. I think it's senility.
Stale dick pills.
Stale dick pills causing my tongue to spell. On this show, we've already talked about me being smacked by a paddle with bitch on it. And the way that works is, so like a good paddle here, let's take this nail clipper case here, isn't just they're usually a flat surface, but a good, your old 50 Shades of Gray paddle has actually a few flaps of leather back to back. So you take a slap there, get a nice loud cracking noise. So you could cut out a word, let's say bitch, on the outermost panel here, and then when you slap someone, like in hypothetically, would get a big ass red rectangle with the word bitch outlined in white. So like I can talk about that, and you're like, they got passed around like, oh boy. Yeah, you can. It's tough. We live in a modern,
Is that what I sound like? I'm gonna say that, like, for the level
not
of
that bad. I went
full
high diddly dokley. Like I went a little too hard on the. No, you're not full Ben Shapiro here. You're doing okay.
Oh God. Sharkbait asking a little 3v3 here.
Sure. I like a little 3v3.
Yeah, Nurk, Wood, and Halliburton, or Melton, Joker, and Brandon Clark. For me, if the Memphis news breaks how I think it will, with no Ja Morant, no Kyle Anderson, it's the second one. But holy crap, is that first one juicy?
So it's weird because it's the first one for me right now. It's the first one for me regardless if Fox is out.
Yes.
But if Fox is in and Memphis doesn't break right, then, or does break right for that team, then it would be the second one with Melton and Clark. So it's a bit of an odd question. Like I understand where you're coming from, Sharkbait. More frequently for me, I think I am taking the first one.
It's
news
definitely
could lead me to the latter,
right? Like, I mean, because Melton and Clark could crater you if
Nurkwood and Holly are actually the. I guess Joker might, like, Melton and Clark can destroy you, like, as far as like if everyone's in or whatever. So like the first one is massively safer. Like Wood and Holly.
Jokic,
sorry,
both lock. Wood and Jokic both lock here in 14 minutes.
Yep. So more frequently for Nurk or Halliburton. Again, you don't have to make that decision for 105 minutes, if I'm remembering the schedule correctly. So, yes, I think is my answer at the moment. Yes, Nurk or Halliburton is fine to do at that last spot. I probably take Halliburton for ownership and just relative to what it should be if Fox is out, depending on when he goes out. If they call him out, if he's game time decision and they call him out 6 minutes before the game, you're going to get Halliburton at like 11% owned, whereas Nurk is still going to hold 30, and that's a really relevant difference. So I have Nurk projected higher right now. I would want Nurkic if Fox was in. So, basically, depending on Fox News. F my L, I have a NFL lineup.
You said F my L, which is just FML.
I
F my L.
I don't even know what I'm doing.
123rd. Oh, boy. That sucks, Panoramic.
Taysom Hill got hurt and wrecked his team that would have maybe had a shot at a milli.
He's got 123rd, yeah. Right now with Taysom in there. Had a Liz Frank injury.
James Ennis to the Jazz. That is exciting.
CJ Ellaby an option if needed.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's an option that's needed. I mean, it certainly looks like he's I'm at 21 minutes right now.
Mm-hmm.
He is 3 flat, which opens you up to, like, again, one of the weird things I like doing is if I like CJ Ellaby, and this again, I don't hear anyone else talk about this. Let me know, by the way, you and anyone in the chat. Have you ever heard anyone have this conversation?
Okay.
If I play CJ Ellaby, I like spending all my money or within $100, if at all possible, because it's going to get me unique lineup configurations that will barely be duplicated because all the other value is $3,300 and $3,400. So if I play a $3,000 value guy and spend every cent, don't I vary? Because normally I like spending less money for the purpose of being more unique. But when you run a guy who is cheaper than all the other value in the field and then spend all your money, I think you end up with almost a unique lineup, even in a giant GPP. So that's sort of my comment there. But
Warriors will start Curry, Wiggins, Green, Looney, and Klay Thompson.
Right in, huh? Okay.
I think I would rather. I'm getting. Can anyone else hear the feed? I hear myself echoing through your speakers, I believe.
Is this a joke?
No. I hear myself and quarter-second delay.
Can anyone else corroborate his statement?
I think with CJ Ellaby, I think I'd rather Stanley Johnson.
There's an echo. Okay, I've lowered my organic gain there. Is this any better? Do you still hear an echo?
It's more faint, for sure. Yeah,
but
I think
it's still there. All right, now hold on.
Very slightly, and it just happened in the last 5 minutes for me.
That's on. Probably production side then.
Tommy,
how's the peeping, Tommy? Tommy, how's the peeping?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I have Kevin Porter Jr. ranked actually fairly high. I have Kevin Porter Jr. at 33 minutes and 35 fantasy points at 6,200. You can absolutely get the KPJ. Having no Pat Beverly helps that matchup a lot. So yeah, by all means, he'll be high single digits owned. That might even be a little low for me. So yeah, I hadn't mentioned that, but I have no issue to a light seasoning of the Soup Man.
All right, we will answer these questions, and then no, we were talking to you, but just bullshitting, Thomas. No worries.
I was like, what am I missing? What did I do wrong?
Except were you talking to me or Discord, Tommy?
You should.
I don't think I've
know.
seen
You should know, Tommy. You have one job.
Let's see. Anthony wants to know: can we discuss the plays? What the plays are again in Memphis, based on how the news breaks?
Yes,
and then
probably a good idea.
And then HB Cards wants us to talk about our favorite Blazers after Simons, Nurk, and Little. So we will do those two things, and then we will get out of here.
Okay, assuming nothing else happens. If something else
sure,
happens,
sure. Memphis.
Want to do Memphis first? Okay.
Yeah, waiting on John Morant, Kyle Anderson, Desmond Bane news. I right now think Bane will play, and Kyle Anderson will sit.
I don't have a strong lean, but that would, if you asked me to pick an outcome on all three players of the 8 potential permutations here, that would be the one I would pick. But, I think we're 30% likely that we get all three of those right. But go ahead. So let's try to do this bit by bit. If Wade Clay is starting, I expected him to start. They had a whole colloquy about, him having rings and shit, and you don't not start that guy and whatever. So I guess there was a chance they brought him off the bench for the first thing, but they want to start practicing immediately with their lineup. So, I expected him to start. He'll still play 4 or 5 minute shifts. He'll probably be beginning of the first, end of the second, beginning of the third, end of the game. I suspect. Yeah, based on Kerr, but it does not change my. All right, so if Ja Morant is out, Tyus Jones becomes a high priority.
Yeah, I have him as a 10 because I'm treating it as Ja and Kyle Anderson being out.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Again, I think for that reason, I would have probably had him a 9 because there's the likelihood we think Ja's out. Like if Ja is in, like 10 for there's too much uncertainty for a 10 for me. But again,
sure.
Moving on. So the guys who get bonuses if Ja Morant is out in order: Tyus Jones, priority 1. I probably have Jaron Jackson Jr. and then, if present, Desmond Bane 2-3.
Yeah.
Do we have somewhere else? Do we want to talk?
I mean, how would you treat, what about
Onshar, Melton? There's a lot of other guys to talk about in here.
I think with Melton being there, I can't prioritize John Conchar is my guy. I love having the opportunity to play John Conchar when he's going to get the minutes. But I think with Melton being back, I would rather get up to him at 4-6.
Do we want to do the if everyone is out?
So if Morant, Bane, and Kyle Anderson are all out?
If Morant, Bane, and Kyle Anderson are out, and they start Clark, Jackson, Tyus, Melton.
Do you think they absolutely start
Zaire
Clark,
Williams?
They could start Xavier Tillman at the 5. He's back.
Yeah, but at that point, you've got to. I think you want to start Clark and Jackson.
Match up with Braun.
Well, yeah. So you have defensive issues there. You have, and also just the fact that you want to play your best players at a certain point, and they want to win this game in early story. They're not punting games at this point. That team. So I think you really want to. All right, if you start Tillman at center, you now have Clark back up the 4 and the 5. So you would have Tillman, not to be confused with Tilly, by the way. You you'd start Tillman, Jackson. Like, all right, if they were all out, you will start Jaron Jackson Jr. and Tyus Jones 100%. Almost certainly DeAnthony Melton at the 2.
Sure.
About 95%. Not 100, but I would be really surprised if he didn't start. And then some combination of Tillman, Clark, Williams, Conchar. Could pick up a start with all of them out.
I think it's Tyus, Melton, Zaire, Triple J, Clark.
Yeah. Possibly Tillman instead of Clark in there. But I think that's the right case. So if just Ja is out, Tyus Jones becomes a priority. Everyone else gets a bonus with either Melton or Jaron Jackson being the most 2. Though it's worth pointing out, everything becomes a bit more GPP because they are in LA, and it's a lot to ask of this team. They've done well with the deep bench this year, but you would add some GPP uncertainty.
Yeah, I agree. So, excuse me. How about the Blazers after Simon's Nurk and Nas Little? We talked a little bit about CJ Ellaby already, but I think 4th there is going to be Bob Cove. Who do you think is the 5th starter here? Because I think it's Simons, Covington, Little, Nurkic for sure. And then who is it? DSJ? Is it McLemore getting in there? Who do you think is the favorite to be that 5th starter? I think for me, it's McLemore. Not sure.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Yeah, I mean, the 3 choices it could possibly would be McLemore, Ellaby, and DSJ. Right? That's it.
Yeah.
It'd be one of those 3 guys. Yeah, that would be it. The only other guys they ever give any time to are the best. I'm sorry. There is some chance they start Tony Snell. It's not 0. I don't think it's likely, but he's a veteran. He plays good defense. He does Tony Snell things. He doesn't fuck your shit up.
Yeah,
you can throw him out there and drop him.
They got 2 of those guys already out there.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Yeah.
Like, I would be surprised if they did it, but it's not 0 chance. If they went Tony Snell is getting a spot start, I think he's least likely of those other 3 for me, honestly. So he's least likely of the 4 players we just named. I'm going to actually say I think CJ Ellaby is slightly the most likely one. I don't know if they want to keep DSJ running with the 2nd unit and Ben McLemore running with the 2nd unit, but
by the way, Eddie, the big board, the whiteboard,
no bets
tied up.
3-0
clean sweep last show.
I don't believe it. What were they?
Let me pull it up.
Yeah, okay. I love it how you bring this up after 2 hours into the show. I'm about to leave.
I'm a gracious winner.
Twisting the knife.
Luka over check. Fiala.
Yep.
What was it? Porzingis and Monk over Brunson and Little that night. And best friend over Terrence Mann.
Yeah. That was fine. That last one I legit lost. Like I watched that game. I'm like, yeah, they're really in on it, but like I deserve to lose that one. That was a bad bet. I know it when I made it. But all right, tied up. Nice. That's good. That's
and I did say by New Year's Day I'll be tied up. Got there. We love it.
Did you? When was that show?
Early December.
December? That's like 6 weeks ago.
I know. I was down 2 or 3. I said by New Year's I'll be there. Yeah. I'll be caught up.
No, I meant when was the show you just quoted the results from?
Oh, well, the Wednesday before New Year's, like the 29th or 30th.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fine. We're back Tuesday, you and I, and Wednesday.
And Wednesday.
It's going to be a thing.
Of a 4-day stretch here.
People will talk. Yeah. They'll say we're in love. They already do talk. That's good.
Oh, man. Well,
you are I can't remember that guy's name to my James Buchanan.
Rob Gronkowski is 1 catch away from $1 million bonus.
Yeah. Well, if it's 1 catch away, then he's $500,000. He had 2 bonuses in play today: $500,000 for yards and $500,000 for catches.
Oh,
so if he also needs 2 yards, so he would likely hit both incentives. But the catches was it was whatever 65 catches or whatever the fuck the number was for $500,000, and whatever the fuck the yards were, 450, 500 for a different bonus of $500,000, I think. So
before we get out of here, Dello wants to know, did you enjoy him binking the tournament last week with the O face?
I did.
First, third, and fourth too. Well done.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of my face up there. That was NAW only got 9 minutes in the first half. That's some bullshit. What the fuck they do with the rotations there?
Is the first half over? I guess it's about that time.
There's 2 minutes left. Yeah, is he on the court?
Well, Jose Alvarado, who was reportedly waived before the fucking game, played 5 minutes. So that's a thing.
Believe it or not, there is some weird shit where, like, I don't remember exactly. Well, when you can give 20 minutes to Garrett Temple, you just have to do that because that guy could turn into a real player someday. Yeah, that's frustrating. That's annoying. Yeah, he's not in, and he's not coming back in tie game too. Garrett Temple is going to play 18 minutes in the first half.
I mean, the good thing is that he was, productive enough in his 9 minutes where.
Oh yeah, you're not dead. He's got 8 fantasy points in my ballpark in this, right? Right about on the nose. 5, 7, 8 1/4, 7 3/4. I'll go with 7 3/4.
You are correct.
Eyeballing this correct, but the still frustrating. It's lower than I would expect.
The guy who was not on the team before we started getting out there,
getting 5 minutes and being productive in them as well. He's got 2 3-pointers himself and a rebound. So
Graham and Temple being potato. Temple is less potato than Devontae Graham is so far, for what it's worth.
It's really interesting for me how that works, where you can waive guys and still have them play games for you. Like that is a thing. It used to happen with two-ways all the time. They'd be like, we're going to send this guy down, but he might play for us Thursday. And I was always like, I do not understand. This is one of the weird wrinkles of the NBA that I really don't understand. But there is a thing. It most frequently seems to me to apply not with being waived, but with G League stuff. But especially in the bubble year, in the Orlando year, there was some weirdness with that shit. A potato.
No surprises from the Bulls. Ball, Levine, DeRozan, Derek Jones Jr., and Nick Vucevic. So with that'll do it. Nice little 2-hour stream here on a Sunday evening. Of course, we will be in the Discord leading up to lock of the last game, which is 9:30 Eastern, I believe. That Lakers and Memphis game. Certainly waiting on news from about De'Aaron Fox, about the Grizzlies as a whole. So we will be here with you in the Discord to read and react to all that comes across, all that comes through the news tank, as it were. Eddie,
yes,
any final words from you before we get out of here?
Let's get those beans.
Oh, with that, shout out Thomas, our producer extraordinaire. Good luck tonight, as always.
Let's get these beans.